Boom. We're live, I think. Anyway,
we are alive.
Woolly ignorance out there, Command Cyborg, always there, those two.
Our dying son who wants to apparently argue against dualism.
Yeah, we can't argue for dualism. Well, we are arguing against dualism, our dying son. So yeah, no dualism in this camp. In fact, we're going to talk a little bit about the psychology of atheists that believe in dualism for some goddamn reason. And there seem to be a bunch of, I think, what did Danny say? Like 90% of philosophers are physicalists now.
That's interesting.
Yeah, most philosophers are that you run into. It's pretty much standard. It's kind of like evolution. You know, molecular biologists, 99.95% are by evolution, and that small minority thinks they have an argument against it. And
now,
so they go, yeah.
We were talking this morning early about you were talking to me about I think it's an argument against physicalism, but something about Mary's I don't know if it was
Mary's room.
Mary's room.
Mary's room.
I was going to ask you to kind of summarize that as the I guess it's a paradox, and let me know what that is, so I don't have to listen to a philosopher talking about another philosopher.
Okay.
Not that you're not a philosopher. It's just that, you know, I was just wondering if you were familiar with it.
Did you say I wasn't a philosopher?
No, I said not that you're not a philosopher.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Not that you're not.
Not that I'm not. Okay. Don't piss me off this early in the broadcast.
Okay. Well, I'll wait about 20 minutes and then I'll piss you off.
Yeah, then you can accuse me of not being a philosopher.
Now, just a little bit of a warning. I think we're starting to get some thunderstorms in, which means my dogs will be huddled around me, trying to essentially get in my lap. So there may be some disruption because of that.
Right, and I will have a cat attack, I'm sure, sometime during this report. So, anyway, so Mary's room is called The Knowledge Argument. It was done by Frank Jackson, and it's a thought experiment where is James back in the room? Yeah. No, he ain't. So
James, are you back?
Are you back, James?
Once? I mean, I don't know if you guys can not.
I can't hear you, but I didn't know if you intended to be back or not.
Yeah, you haven't come on the iPad. So.
Well, I'm trying to figure out a way to make my tablet use the link properly so that I can join through. Otherwise, I'm going to keep roboting.
Yeah, you're still wrong. So I'm going to hit the off button again, and I was just clarifying things there.
Yeah, but James, you want to actually leave the studio on this tab and then do it on your iPad. So you don't want to leave this one open because that's going to take bandwidth. That's going to fuck you up. Yep. Yes. Oh, let's see here.
We're joined by Nerdy Rodent and Jefferson Spatcock.
Ooh.
And of course, wonderful Bree is out there.
Bree is out there.
From Insect Land and Cryptid Land as well. Does a great job covering the cryptids.
The cryptids. I'm afraid of the cryptids.
They crypt me out.
Yeah. They crypt me too.
But anyway, we were talking about Mary in her room. Is this where she doesn't clean it and her mama gets her in trouble?
Well, let me go from the wiki here. Okay, the knowledge argument is also known as Mary's room and Mary the super scientist. Let's see. Frank Jackson wrote an article, Epiphenomenal Qualia, and basically it's a thought experiment, and it's originally like this, and I'll read it. Mary is a brilliant scientist who, for whatever reason, forced to investigate the world from a black and white room via a black and white television monitor. In other words, Mary can never leave this black and white room, has not since Mary was born. So She specializes in neurophysiology of vision and acquires, let us suppose, all the physical information there is to obtain about what goes on when we see ripe tomatoes or the sky, and uses the term red and blue and so on. She discovers, for example, just which wavelength combinations from the sky stimulate the retina, and exactly how this produces via the central nervous system the contraction of vocal cords and expulsion of air from the lungs that results in uttering the sentence, "The sky is blue." What will happen when Mary is released from her black and white room or is given a color television monitor? Will she learn anything or not? Okay. So Mary knows everything there is to know about color vision, but Mary has never actually experienced any colors at all. And then Mary is released from the room. So the knowledge argument goes that if Mary knows everything physical that there is to know about color vision, when she's released from the room, what is it that she learns when she first sees the color red? What happens to her? And what changes are made in her brain? So now all of a sudden she sees the qualia of red, something that she had never acquired by all of this knowledge. You follow that?
Yes, I follow that.
Okay. Mary knows everything there is to know about brain states and their properties. It is not the case that Mary knows everything there is to know about sensations and their properties. Therefore, sensations and their properties are not the same. The brain states and their properties are not equal to the sensation. So that's Mary's room argument, and that was considered a very damning argument for physicalism.
Damn it.
It's kind of a big damn them. They got us.
Non-physicalists.
The duelists got us there, man. We didn't see that one coming. Anyway.
Well, first of all, the premise that she could become a brilliant neurophysiologist while being brought up in a black and white room all by herself is questionable to me.
No, not for me. I could accept that.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
I've seen a lot of Inside Editions and kidnapping, abduction, crime channels where they basically put people in rooms and they managed to raise families, over a period of 20 years.
Oh, really?
So,
now,
yeah.
which one of those became a neurophysiologist?
One of them, I'm not sure. Well, what I'm concerned about is charges were never brought against Frank Jackson.
Oh,
that's what,
okay.
Yeah, that's
that
what
is
I'm
an
concerned about.
odd thing to go on about.
Right. It's like, wait a minute, why did you keep Mary in this room? What exactly was going on there, Frank?
Yeah.
Anyway.
But anyway,
So,
trying not to get hung up on that, although I'm finding it difficult. Okay. Yeah. So the Mary's room talks to you about things that people normally would be familiar with, but aren't. They've gone through their developmental cycles and phases and have not experienced red or green or yellow or blue.
Okay.
Was it a quiet room?
So
I'm talking about sounds and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. They don't get into that. So Nitty is asking about wieners. So we should probably unpack wieners a little bit. So the technical term for this, Nitty, is weenie, and I spell that Weenie, just to make it as weenie.
So you were just using the word wiener as slang in your title?
It's not slang. It's a technical term. Well, I guess, wiener would be
Wiener's the slang.
Yeah,
okay.
that's slang. Slang for the weenie, okay? The weenie is a philosopher that starts spouting about artifacts of the mental realm, linguistic artifacts like belief and intention and all of that. And then they try to make an ontological argument based on that. And there are other things weenie philosophers do. They try to bowl you over with their terminology. And they try to constantly disgrace you because you don't quite have, the same, you haven't been to the same fucking, through the same PhD program as them. Those are weenies. So, yeah, you got it, Nitty. That's a technical term for a weenie philosopher. And I have made that accusation against certain people on this channel. And I'm sticking to it. basically. Yeah, this is a better depiction of weenies right here. This is the more accurate graphic. Like that is a graph of weenie philosophers. Yep. Philosophy, yeah. Yeah, the other thing I call philosophy like that is philosyphilis. Because it tends to rot your brain. Philosophers. Oh my God, Nitty's on fire. Philosophos. Anyway.
And so the whole idea is that there is something called qualia that encompasses the sensation, the difference between knowing about a sensation and actually experiencing the sensation. That he is back. Hey James, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, you loud and clear, very clear.
Yeah.
Almost good. Seth Andrews level of
Seth Andrews, yeah.
Of sexy voice. In fact, I just want you to read what's on the screen there, and we'll all just listen. I'm just kidding.
I like philosophy.
Fair.
So,
Fair.
Anyway, so what we're trying to do is launch into a series of videos on consciousness, and part of those are the thing that are Eric Hernandez part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ... NN or N series. So all of these are kind of related, but one of the things that I wanted to do when I started this channel is try to start to flesh out and work with my ideas on consciousness, which I've developed over the last 20 years. And I have never had a convert to my way of looking at the physicalism of consciousness.
In fact, you've been mocked and reviled a lot because of your.
Oh yes, yeah. Particularly my ribbons and bows idea, that sort of thing. Yeah. So anyway, did you catch anything on Mary's room, James?
No, I always use protection when I go into Mary's room.
Oh,
you better. You should. Yeah.
Apparently, you didn't catch anything on Mary's room. Okay. So
reasonably sure.
Yeah. So anyway, Mary was, is a brilliant neuroscientist that was born in and brought up in a black and white room, so she's never seen color ever. And at age 42, Mary was let out of the room, knowing everything there is to know about color vision, all the neuroscience of color vision. And when Mary first sees red, the question is, does something new happen to Mary that she had never known before? She'd never seen before, and it's called the knowledge argument. And what they're talking about is what qualia is, what this qualitative aspect of seeing red as opposed to just reading about red. And when I first heard Mary's room, I thought it was the most infantile argument I'd seen in a long time, but it's very well respected in philosophy of the mind. And you can see why I get mocked, because I mock myself. So so
that's fair.
First of all, if you actually did that to a human being, I don't think they would see colors right away. I think they would see something weird in their vision, and they would keep trying to blink their eyes and try to figure out what the fuck's wrong. And I've heard that they actually, I think they actually did some actual tests on people where they didn't have color vision. They acquired a color vision, and they had the feeling they were seeing something alien in their visual field, and the colors weren't exactly associated with the objects. So they would be like, it would look like oil paint that was blurring all over the canvas.
Yeah, I was going to ask if developmentally people can go through a certain part of their childhood without seeing colors and then later be able to recognize them.
Yeah, it is a problem, because there's basically a lot of plasticity in your visual system that has to be laid out very early, and the chances are that they would never see color quite really as well as we've got to see it, because when we see it, we actually we probably see water paint like blurriness, but a little bit, but we manage to turn it into objects so we can see a sharp red ball. It's because of the way our brains developed with this. Well, let's say the visual system has about 100 modules, right, or more. They keep discovering more, and they all work together. And there's two basic pathways in your brain. One is called the dorsal, and it goes kind of underneath your brain, and that tells you what an object is. That's like, what is this thing? And then there's basically, and your color vision is involved there. And then on the top, across the top of your brain, there's another pathway, the ventral, and that one tells you how things move. And so that's primarily concerned with motion and 3D effects and all that. And those two things cross into your cortex, and they merge again and come up with the visual qualia, what you're seeing visually. So there's two different pathways, dorsal and ventral, and the what is it pathway and the where is it pathway, sort of, or what's it doing, that sort of thing. Anyway, so but it's meant to depict this thing we call consciousness. And now, hang on a second here. If you look into now, I think I'm going to play a little Danny video. Hang on a second. Cat air. Let's see. Okay.
Cat air.
What am I after here? Okay. This is the debate with Tjump, and Danny lays out his argument for dualism. And should we launch into that, or should we? Yeah, we'll play a little bit of this first, and then we'll talk about this problem we were talking about earlier about atheists that are dualists. And I think that they are people that have not completely extricated themselves from a religious mindset. I think they're people that still think in religious terms. But for them, they'll say, well, the soul is not anything mystical. It's some physical property we haven't discovered about the universe. Or, like panpsychists will say that consciousness is in every atom, and humans just extract it, or whatever the fuck, whatever kind of woo. Let's see. Oh, you're saying it's a category error in saying the experience requires qualitative labels for the experience. Okay, I'm not sure. That could go in a couple different ways, Nitty. Somebody should send Nitty a link. Does anybody have his email?
I've never corresponded with Nitty, so unfortunately I don't have his email.
How about you, James?
I guess I could put the link out there. Oh, go ahead.
I have what's supposedly his phone number. I got off of someone had etched it into the Burger King bathroom men's stall. It said for a good time, call him Nitty.
Oh, cool.
I haven't tried it yet, so I'm not really sure that's his real phone number. But
that's my problem is I've been looking in the Arby's bathrooms for Nitty's number. Dang.
Yeah, playing qualitative, and that's where we get into the whole problem of philosophy of the mind, is that we think linguistically about these categories of experience, and we attach labels to them. And as soon as we attach a label to them, they become something over and above what the actual experience is. And so qualia is something that's going to require a whole lot of unpacking. Particularly my ideas about qualia are going to require a lot of unpacking. Okay. There you go. Anyways, send Nitty a link. Maybe Nitty can offer something up here. But let's go ahead and listen to Danny's argument first. How about that? Will that be okay?
Sure. Yeah.
Stream one.
I'm okay with that.
Player. Let's see. Okay. Got to turn that on.
It's always listen to an argument before we mock it.
Yep. And, I'm sure Danny has made this more sophisticated since he did this. And I've heard a slightly different version of it that we'll get into. But here it goes.
Opening, I just simply made claims. I didn't give any argument. So But we can start with dualism, right? I think that's what we want to focus on. I'm a dualist because I take Hume's distinction between is and not very seriously, right? I think that a state of that expresses ought and a state that expresses is can't be identified with one another. So my job here is to show why various mental states, more specifically intentional states, are states that express ought, not states that express is. Natural states, just think in terms of science, right? Science is in the business of approaching natural things, right? Maybe understanding the regularities and the behaviors of natural things, right? So it's in the business of what has happened, what is happening, and what will happen, right? But if you think about oughts, and I'm going to use when I use the term normative or normativity, I'm referring to oughts. Okay, so those are for our purposes synonymous, right? Just so there's no confusion about what I'm talking about.
Does anyone require any unpacking? If you do, just stop me and we'll discuss anything about this is-ought thing and normativity and all that crap. Okay.
I was actually researching something related to the channel, so I didn't really catch much of what Danny said, but I think I've heard the argument before.
Yep. Okay. Let's see. We'll go on.
When we're talking about normative states, right, we're not expressing anymore what has happened, what is happening, and what will happen. We're talking about what should have happened. We're talking about what should be happening and what should happen in the future, right? So to me, I take those to be meaningfully distinct, such that if you have a state that expresses what should happen, it can't be identified with a state that is happening. So, case in point, a belief, right? I take beliefs, or maybe it might be easier to start with a desire, okay? I take, I'm a sort of subjectivist, a relativist, so I think that I should do X if and only if I have a desire to do X, right? And that can only be true if there's a built-in ought in desire, right? Which means that desire has a concept of ought built into it, okay? And that's to subvert Hume's guillotine, right? So I'm not deriving an ought from an is, I'm deriving an ought from a desire, right? So desires are themselves oughts, right? So if I desire water, okay, that can't be identified with the natural state, because natural states, as I take it, are descriptive. They're not prescriptive, right? So the way my brain is a totally different state than what I desire to happen, right? What ought to happen, right? And that's the basis of my dualism. That's the argument.
Okay, so it sounds like you're saying there are emotions that cause us.
Can I pause that real quick?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the end of his argument, basically.
Okay, now the one thing, and it'd be nice to have Danny to clarify his an ought is, to me, having a desire is not having an ought. It's a condition. Maybe it's only an ought if you put a condition on it, like if you want to get that water, then you ought to go to the stream and get it, or to the faucet or whatever. But I just, in my gut, I can't identify an ought and a desire as being the same thing or being normative.
Well, see, if I desire a cookie, I ought to have a cookie. It would be like Danny is a moral relativist, and he believes that whatever it would be that he desires, if he does what he desires, then that automatically implies that it is good for Danny. That's why I think Danny's a psychopath. I don't know.
Well, you know, I was raised by a guy, parents who were one generation away from, like, they lived through the Great Depression from the tail end. They were born in the tail end of the Great Depression. And my mom grew up in poverty. My dad, not so much, but, you know, they weren't well-to-do by any means. So when I hear I desire a cookie, I also hear get off your lazy ass and go do some work, get some money, and go buy your own damn cookies. I ought to work, but I ought not to have cookies.
Yeah.
It's a luxury. It's what is it called when you don't need it but you can indulge in it? I don't know.
Excess.
I guess it's what?
An excess.
Yes, it's kind of an excess. Yeah.
Oh, it's called being an American.
Yeah. but then I recognize that Danny is a couple more generations later. So maybe that separation between stuff you ought to do in order to get something you desire are identified together, because really there's nothing you have to do to get anything you desire, because you, and I don't want to sound like a boomer here, but maybe there's no difference between ought and desire for people of certain generations.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if he equates the two, but he considers, like, desire is normative to him. Like, okay, another one of Danny's argument is that, okay, if desire causes me to go out and get something, like causes me to act to go out and get a cookie, right? Desire is the cause of getting a cookie. Okay, and getting a cookie is a physical thing, so it translates into something physical. But Danny says that basically that desire could mean that I could fail to get my cookie, or I could succeed. So how can a cause have two different branches in it? And I think that was one of his arguments, if I'm representing that right. Danny's in the side chat, so he's going to start accusing me of misrepresenting his argument. But this argument at from 357 to 633 is pretty concise, and I don't think he can deny what he said there. So anyway.
Well, I don't want to necessarily be on a debate with Danny. I don't want the tone to shift to something adversarial. I want to understand his point of view, but the whole idea of, I guess, what's considered normative. To me, normative is what's done, socially and just socially acceptable things that people do as a matter of custom, or it's like a law or a rule that you follow. But a desire for something isn't something that necessarily has to be fulfilled by you, even though I can have chicken for supper along with a salad and still desire fried catfish. So how is desiring the catfish normative when I made a choice to be healthier? I have two contrasting desires: one to be healthy, one to fulfill another desire. The stronger desire is the desire for catfish. And God, how I love catfish, especially with hush puppies. Oh my Lord! But anyway, that's the problem I'm having, and I don't want to. And I think Danny, he's got a really good teacher's mind and ability to explain things, and I would like to. And I know he's been over this, but I just haven't caught on to it. It hasn't hooked with me, so that whenever a desire is considered normative, that's where I have trouble.
So, okay, so what we're doing, or what the debate was about, is physicalism versus a dualism, right? Where there's a mental substance in the world. And Danny, do you consider yourself a substance dualist or a property dualist? Because I've heard you accused of being both, and I'm not entirely sure where you would fall on that. But substance means that there's like a mental substance that's very different physically from all physical forces and all of that. And then property dualist is like there's like, and I think that gets into emergence. There's like emergent properties of the mind that cannot be equated to the physical.
Calm down.
In other words, you can never compare the two. Scott's playing with his dogs.
I'm chastising my dogs. They think they're puppies again.
Yeah. Something that is normative creates a problem. Okay. So here we go. Go ahead, James.
I mean, a couple of things real quick. I mean, nobody's a truer authority on what Danny thinks than Danny, right? So I don't feel any sense of need to lock him into a particular idea expressed by particular words in the past. Like if he wants to come on and say that, here's what I really mean now, right? Then I'm okay with that. Like, fine. I don't care.
This isn't about Danny. This is about that particular argument, and I've seen that argument in a number of different forms where they'll start talking about some mental artifact like belief, desire, that you ought to do something, and then they will try to compare that to physical systems, and they'll say, well, it can't just be neurons firing. I mean, there's no way that we could we could describe scientifically what an ought is, what a desire is, or what any of this stuff is. And that's kind of the basis of all these arguments. There's no way that we could scientifically tell you what happens to Mary when she leaves the room and first sees her first red apple. We can't tell you scientifically what happens. She knows everything scientifically that happens to brains physically, right? When she's in the room, because she is the utmost.
Brains.
Oh no, I triggered Scott. Kind of gives me the chill, a little chill when you do that, Scott, because I got a brain. Anyway, so
then I fulfilled my purpose for the day, I guess.
Right. So the whole argument hinges on the knowledge argument that there is something that happens to Mary, some knowledge she acquires when she first senses red, as opposed to all the knowledge that she had acquired over 42 years of studying the color vision, right? So you can't equate physical to mental. But my problem with it is that we pull these mental artifacts out of our cultural, linguistic, and experiential histories, right? And we have these artifacts that we call mental. Like I feel a pain. I'm in pain, or I'm upset, or I'm angry, or whatever. These are mental things, and we're talking about how we reduce those to physical things in the brain, right? And neuroscience has spent in the last 70 years has really almost totally exhausted all of those mental things and actually got brain scans and physical information about what's going on in your brain. Okay. And the thing that my position, having dipped into a bit of that neuroscience, is that when you start to understand the neuroscience of the brain and the pathways in the brain, it matches up with your experience of your brain. So like there's a homology between the two, right? Like the structure of that fucking thing that's in my skull, when I study it, actually tells me a little bit about what I'm experiencing. And that to me really dots the T's or dots the I's and crosses the T's on the brain is physical, because my experience has a homology with the neuroscience that I have read. So anyway.
I mean, what else could it be but physical?
Yeah, well, there's a bunch of schools on that. Now, Danny, I don't know what he would say. I think he suffers from religious afterburn. But Chalmers would say, there's some physical property about the universe, about the cosmos that we have not discovered. There's something about the universe that we have not figured out yet, some force that basically is going to explain what mental is. So, yeah, Danny doesn't think Mary's room is a good argument. I'd like to know why you don't think it's a good argument against physicalism. But, and he doesn't run that argument. Brain pixies, yeah, brain pixies. It could be that. And all this goes back to Descartes. He thought the pineal gland was like a portal between these two different substances. That's how basically mind stuff turned into physical stuff, that it was the structure of our pineal gland or whatever. Anyway. So now the problem I have with it is these mental artifacts, certainly like desire, it's like Danny starts talking about desire or belief, and so does Eric Hernandez. Starts talking about mental artifacts, and I'm sitting there screaming, yes, we can show you what those things are on brain scans, but we certainly can't. It would be so complicated. We'd have to write documents that reach from here to the fucking top of Mount Everest in order to explain all that's going on when a person desires a cookie. Right? So, I mean,
Right.
we can reduce it in principle, but in practice, it would be impossible to do, because every desire is going to be different for you in your life, and it's going to be different from person to person. So anyway, so yeah, what else could it be? So one thing it could be is it could be a soul. There could be like something that lands on an embryo as it's developing and turns into this mental stuff, right?
Mhm.
So where the fuck does that come from? It's just like,
Okay, Danny, I'm copying your words again, so I don't have to ask you what you're talking about 100 times over. He's probably mad at me now because I keep asking him the same shit over and over. Like, what do you mean by this? What do you mean by that? And I know he's explained it.
the neurological facts underdetermine the facts about what ought to have been the case. Yeah, they do, because there are too many neurological facts, basically. Like, what ought to be the case? I mean, that is a linguistic human social primate kind of thing that we do to each other. And if you want to turn that into physical facts, we got a long road ahead of us, but I don't see any reason why it couldn't be turned into physical facts.
Now, he makes this other statement: neurological facts provide no fact of the matter as whether you meant X rather than Y.
Yeah, but they do.
Provide no fact of the matter. Neurological facts as to whether you meant X rather than Y.
Yeah, if I'm thinking of addition, okay, and you're thinking of addition, right? You and I both have, the idea that we're going to add 3 + 2, but and we come up with 5, and it turns out that you and I have entirely different ideas about how to do that. For me, I'd memorized every single combination of numbers, and I just look it up. I memorize it in programmer jargon, right? So but you actually go through a process where you add 2 and 3 together, right? You have a skill where you can add things. I don't have that. I memorized it, but we both say that we're doing addition. So, yeah. Okay. If we bring anybody else into the room, it's just going to go to hell, I think. I don't know.
Well, if we're going to keep talking about Danny, it's only fair we bring Danny in, if Danny wants to be in.
Yeah, I know that's a fair thing to do, but on this channel, I'm not known for my fairness. But
there's a point.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, there's nothing in the YouTube agreement that says I got to be fair. I haven't found it anyway.
There is no ought? Are you saying there's no ought about it?
There's what now?
There's no ought. It's not true that you ought to be fair?
Right. Yeah, it's not true that I ought to be fair. Yeah. The notion of ought, in my view, is tethered to beliefs and desires. I think ought is tethered to, our cultural ideas about morality, like Scott was saying. You ought to work hard.
Yeah, ought is a story. Ought is a story we tell.
Yeah, you ought to work hard. Anyway, Pipeline Audio wants Danny in. Melody Joy wants Danny in. Danny could come in, but then...
No, he says he can't come in. Apparently he's busy, or maybe his... I don't know. I can't think of anything funny. I was going to think of something funny, but I can't right now.
Oh, God, Danny, I wanted you in here so bad. God, Danny, you disappointed me so much. Yeah, at some point, Danny should come in and try to basically, he's busy babysitting 15-year-olds. Back to the old teaching job, eh?
15-year-olds, I would probably just hide from them and just trust that they don't kill each other.
At some point, Danny and I should be able to have a conversation about why I disagree with just pulling ought, belief, desire, these words out of our linguistic, cultural, and experiential constructs and claiming that these are things that we can talk about as if they have physical properties, as if they have properties, right? I don't think we can do that. And that's kind of the basis of my counter argument against all of that. I don't think that that's fair. Now, if you look at Mr. Gutenplan and this Blackwell Companion Philosophy, okay, where are we here?
Dessel's wanting, I think, to make us aware of a YouTube channel thing. I'm going to put the link in the private chat for you.
No, that won't be necessary, Scott.
Okay.
I got it up. Let's see. Great abiogenesis debate. Lukey versus Alex, or is it Luca? Did they mean Harry who? What? Harry what? Harry who? Harry who?
That's Mary Lou, whose older brother. Unfortunately, he was killed by the Grinch.
Oh shit! What just happened to my tab? Wow. Shit. Holy shit. Everything just went blank on me. Everything just slowed up. Oh no. Oh no. I'm trying to bring that tab over so we can take a look at it. And the tab is like out in outer space somewhere right now. It's like nothing's moving. I'm frozen. Oh my goodness. What have I done? What have I done? I've been tab attacked. Holy shit. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Wow. Like everything just froze on me. The camera. Oh, I'm in trouble. Oh my goodness. I might have to get out and get back in, guys. And that's going to take me about, I guess 3-4 minutes to do.
I understand.
Yeah. I created one Google tab too many, I think. Fuck. What did I do that for? Anyway, so what do you guys think of that?
I mean, I think it's just like Jesus. You're pushing your luck until you can't afford to anymore. You get to die and be reborn a few days later. And then we'll continue the stream. For a few minutes.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think this has now become the resurrection and the life.
Yeah, let's see if I can get back into my own stream.
We have to keep it going perpetually now so that others may experience the resurrection and the life.
Yep.
So go out there and tell your friends, folks. Have them, number one, subscribe so we can take that viewer mark above 1,000, and have them send in some of their hard-earned money to show their commitment to the way, the truth, and the life of Answers in Atheism.
Yeah.
We first have to see him die and come back, though. I'm waiting for them.
Yeah, that happens perpetually. Really, believe me. Well, it happens perpetually.
My cursor is so slow right now that even restarting my computer is problematic. So,
and what's your operating system?
Fucking Mac, and I've got a really I've got a 2019 Mac, but the fucking thing is powerful. It's just that Google Chrome just kills it. Okay, I'm going to start and come back again. And that's going to take a little bit.
Hallelujah.
But hallelujah. He is crucified. He is crucifying. Oh my God. I got to.
Oh my God. What in the world are you doing to us, Grr? I guess that's his comment about Speed having to go offline and come back in. That's a euphemism, James, for death, going offline. In fact, I want my if my wishes for death are not honored and I'm not blown up using a pound of C4, then I want my tombstone to say he went offline in whatever the date that is.
Right.
Yeah, we're leaving. I think we're leaving. Oh my God.
I think if you leave, like, we'll still be here. I think that you'll just.
Hallelujah. He is gone. He is
Hallelujah.
gone. Now we need to run and hide from the government. Go ahead, James. I'm sorry.
Well, we need to sufficiently piss off the government on purpose, so then we can feed our persecution complex. So then we have a reason to run and hide as a way to validate our religion.
I think so too. I think you're right. So
It's
everybody
important
out there,
to
start flipping birds at the traffic cops that you see. Maybe go into your local DMV and start asking for the manager in a loud voice. That'll piss them off.
Whatever works. So yeah, when I talk about what I ought to do, I'm describing mechanics. I'm describing an if or a cause and effect proposition, right? I ought to do this. If the proposition is driven by a goal, which they always are, right? Your goal arises from a sense of desire. You want a thing, and then you examine how to get to the thing because you want the thing. These are automatic processes. There's no free will involved in that shit, and it's all entirely physical. So then what you do is when you create the idea of an ought, you're creating a story based on, or as a description for, how to get there. That's it. That's all it is. A description for how to get there. And that's just based on mechanical facts or at least perceptions of mechanical facts based on our understanding of the physics at the time. If you want this, then in order to attain that, you have to do this other thing to get there. So there's your ought. If you want this, you ought to do that. Just means that's the steps you think are involved in getting to the thing that you want. That's it. It's just descriptive of the mechanics. So where there's supposed to be magic in that, I can't even imagine.
Maybe Danny will come back with his response, but yeah, there is still a morality ought, which I think we have to change into a mechanical kind of idea like you're talking about. There's no oughtness in and of itself. There's only oughtness like from a collective point of view of like a society deciding that this is a behavior we can't abide.
Well, I mean, for most people, I think that there's an element of truth to that, but I don't let society tell me what my oughts are, in terms of how I feel about it. Like, I may comply with the societal ought just because I don't want to suffer the consequences of not complying, but that's driven by a different ought than theirs, right? It's a self-preservation ought. But I don't let society dictate my moral compass for me. If I disagree with something, I disagree with something. That's just all there is to it. So I can't think of a single view or value that I hold to where it's because the consensus has reached that opinion. None. I'm pretty sure I've purged it all. Like, none of that shit's in my closet anymore.
I'm kind of back. Am I back?
Yes.
I don't know. I won't believe it until I can feel around inside your gaping wounds and verify that it's really you.
I want to be able to put my finger in the burning slashes that Snack put in your side.
Oh, you fucking atheist! You said that you would believe it if I came back, if I was resurrected. Now you want to fucking stick your hand in my wound. Like, come on, guys.
I didn't sign any contract. You can't hold me to that.
Fuck. You atheists won't accept what's right in front of you. It's just like, God, you guys just don't know.
Well, when Jesus came back, he had a different face, and nobody ever asked him about it. I guess because they didn't want to be rude. It's just kind of like, I don't know.
How do you tell somebody their plastic surgery didn't work? That's just sad.
Smart at. Watch the screen. What? Oh no, Jesus' miracle didn't work. What the fuck?
Didn't work. Sometimes they just don't.
Yeah. What the hell? What the fucking fuck? I can't change my avatar.
What
Doesn't
the
that place in John where Thomas, doubting Thomas demands to put his fingers in his palms and everything like that? Doesn't that strike you? And then Jesus kind of praises him for his, for doing it, but then it kind of does a shamed with damned by faint praise thing. Well, now all these other people later, they're not going to get a chance to do this, and they're going to believe. So I don't know. That's a sad passage to me.
Weird.
Getting perpetually shamed by Jesus in a passive aggressive manner.
I think I just proved that Jesus is bullshit because I can't change my avatar on Restream. I don't know.
Do you have to take yourself off and then change it?
Yeah, maybe that. Let me boot myself.
There's a drop down ellipsis and then change avatar, and now I can change. Now I am speed, and now I can go back, go to change avatar.
I can't change mine at all. It has something to do with me coming back in the room.
And
So
I have a picture of fuzzy Doc Severinsen. He was never this fuzzy. I just want to be Doc Severinsen someday.
That seems fair. Hashtag
Anyway.
goals.
Okay, where the fuck was I before everything went to hell? Before the shit hit the fan. So
You went to hell. We stayed here.
it's still kind of funky, Fucking Chrome is still killing me. Oh my god, it's Chrome. Chrome is not working well with the Mac lately, and I don't know why.
With the Mac, yeah, because I'm using Chrome and I was able to change my avatar really well.
Well, no, it's because I went out and I came back in. Something went wrong with my Restream permission or some fucking thing.
Sure.
Let me quit FaceTime. FaceTime is always a problem. Okay.
I bet when as years go by, people are going to be so fond of our stream that they're going to say, I just miss those days that when we got to listen to Speed just curse and raise hell because his machine wasn't working right. He never could get that avatar changed. I just love that part of his show.
Yeah. It's irritating. Anyway. Okay. Oh my goodness. Why are we doing this stuff? Why are we doing this? What do we care? Anyway, okay, so this is basically this book has part 1 and part 2. And part 1 is an essay on the mind. And it's about 107 pages long. And it's in one of my books on my shelf that I thought I didn't read. And then when I looked at it this morning, I saw that I highlighted this whole section. Cannot remember reading it or highlighting it, but I did. And then the rest of it is a dictionary that goes through content, consciousness, intention. Jerry Fodor. Here's Jerry Fodor. That's pretty cool. He's in there. Folk psychology, innateness, all kinds of shit. Naturalism, pain, the whole 9 yards, basically. So, but this first part is where Gutenplan, and he's a teacher, gets into mapping out the territory of the mind, right? And so he starts mapping out all these territories. And one of the things he comes up with is this amazing fucking list right here, right? Where we have all the things that he kept polling his students and asking them, what do you think are the artifacts of the mind? So these are the pieces of our minds, right? So what do you think goes into this consciousness stuff? What are all the pieces? And we have ability to learn, awareness, ability to represent, consciousness itself, dreaming, on and on and on, reasoning. Where the hell is it? Action. I think people put action in here. Speaking, thinking, wanting, which would be desire. So all of these are ways that we describe the landscape of our own mind. And this first part is all about describing this landscape, basically. And he's got, let's see, experiencing, having a pain, seeing stars when you bump your head, attitudinizing, which is wanting a piece of chocolate cake, believing that the earth is round, and then acting, signing a check, making a chair, reaching for a glass. So those three broad categories are how he starts to take this apart. And what he does for the next 100 pages is he gets into this stuff more heavily. And my complaint about Danny's argument is Danny did not do the prerequisite work to talk about what a desire is, what a belief is, what an ought is, right? And we would have to. I've never seen any conscious of the mind people try to call oughts something tangible like Danny does, but I'm sure there are some that have done this. But anyway, so this goes on and on and on, and I'm trying to think if he's got any other tables here. So this, do you understand what I mean by getting into the landscape of the mind, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like, like when I'm walking through my day, what are the pieces of my mind? What are these little pieces that I come up with? Like right now, I'm seeing my iPad and my cup of coffee and my, of course, that other thing that I was talking about earlier is sitting there. And I'm not going to mention that. I say a pair of pliers, So like when we talk about the landscape of our mind and we talk about consciousness, the first thing I go to is my visual field. And
yes,
in my visual field right now, I see tons of things, like all kinds of things. And then when I concentrate on one of them, like I'm looking at this little Kindle icon on the bottom of my screen. There's a little kid reading a Kindle holding a Kindle in his hand, just a silhouette, right? And I think about Kindle, and now I've gone off into another part of my mind where I'm thinking about things that are abstract, kind of like Kindle, like the application Kindle, and that's part of it, and on and on. And then I believe there's an iPad in front of me, and I didn't believe that until I said it. Though there was something about my mind that immediately, when I saw the iPad, immediately I went to, I believe I have an iPad in front of me, right? So, I mean, these are the things that we got to talk about. And these are the pieces of the mind that you have to flesh out if you're going to make a fucking argument that physicalism isn't true. And the problem I have with the reason that it seems like religion to me is they're referring to these cultural artifacts like the odd is problem and beliefs and all that stuff without fleshing them out, without looking deeply into how do we acquire this knowledge of what we are thinking, what these artifacts are, right? How do we apprehend our experience? That's how I put it. And some philosophers put it that way too. So that's a question. Kind of an open question. So pick up your Kindle and you find it's got a book that you didn't think you bought. Does that count as a Kindle surprise? I think so, nerdy. Often wander around to find pieces of my mind all over the place. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, if you take some heavy psychedelics, it is absolutely amazing how you can actually start to take the pieces of you and see them as existing out there somewhere where you can kind of observe them. And it's really a very interesting process. That's the other thing. You take a psychedelic drug and your mindscape changes completely into something that you don't even recognize. In fact, if somebody drops acid in somebody's beer, basically, and they don't know about it, that is going to really fuck them up because all of a sudden reality is going to be so different that you're like Mary leaving her black and white room. Okay, let's see.
Well, if you do it like at a bar, then you can kind of halfway expect that because, it's a bar. and people go around dropping Mickeys all the time.
Yes, Danny, I believe that neurological issues are the same as mental issues, brain health versus mental health. I don't mean different things. Because I am a just flat out I subscribe to scientism. I believe we can solve all of these problems with science. That's what I think.
Yeah, because like trauma, if you have a mental illness that is related to trauma, that affects the brain for sure. That changes the brain. So I guess that would be one tick in favor of the kind of physicalism that you ascribe to. Is that right, Speed? Do you call it physicalism?
Yes. Yeah, I don't like to call it materialism because that, for me, having grown up in the 50s and 60s, materialism meant something else. It meant greedy capitalist.
Greedy capitalist dogs.
Greedy capitalist dogs. So, yeah.
Because we are living in a material world.
Oh, don't start making me singing that.
Yeah,
it'll be in my head all afternoon.
A shovel to the back of the head is very much like psychosis, like instant psychosis, basically. You instantly have a problem. You may go blind. A couple other things might happen. Oddly enough, when you get slammed in the front of your head, your brain sloshes around and the back of your head gets damaged. So the opposite side of where you hit somebody in the head frequently develops starts filling with fluid and starts fucking you up. So a prophet of Epperson.
Now I want to know, Nitty, why you never came in?
Well, did you send him a link?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think he should have got it. Did you get my link, Nitty? Nitty. Oh, Nitty.
Hey, Jay is here.
He was not convinced. Nitty was not convinced of that ought proposition. He was not sure that he ought to join us.
Oh, he got pulled into
We did
a
not
meeting.
make our case
Those are painful.
for that.
Ought not. It starts to sound like Dr. Seuss. My laptop is hot.
Dr. Seuss was a major.
Yeah.
It was a major what?
Probably right. Dr. Seuss was a major influence on my writing style.
Oh, okay. I thought you were about to accuse him of something, and I've been waiting to give this Dr. Seuss book to my grandsons when they're ready. But I thought, gee, I don't want to give it to him if there's something wrong with it.
Oh, he'll eventually get canceled.
Yeah.
He'll
Well,
eventually get
have
canceled
you ever
for
read the Sneetches?
Yeah.
You know, where like you have the star-bellied Sneetches and the plain-bellied Sneetches, and you know they have, you know, division and they make fun of each other, and then some Seuss character comes along, puts them through a machine where it mixes up the stars and the planes, and then or give everybody a star. I don't know, but you know, it's that kind of positive message about, hey, it doesn't matter, you know, our external superficial features, we're all one people, and you know that's just way too controversial. So it's definitely not followed anymore.
Yeah.
But then there were the pants with no person in the woods one that was kind of scary. No, what's it called?
Ooh.
And anyway.
So
okay, I'm going to quit blathering. Apparently, I'm just going on, and I don't think that's good for this stream. So I'm just going to hit mute and let y'all talk.
No, that's why we have you. Your pointless meandering makes the show, Scott. So,
well, good. I'm glad there's some positivity to my pointlessness.
Yeah. So yeah, I used to. What my sons, when they were like 4 years old, after they would, you know, they'd have some sort of disagreement and they'd start fighting with each other. They're twins, right? Equally matched. Fighting with each other is never a good idea when you're exactly equally matched. The fucking war never ends. I would play them that.
Right.
I'd read them that Dr. Seuss book about the east going thing and the west going thing or whatever. The snitch or what?
Oh, the Sneetches.
Sneetches. Yeah, one was the east
Well,
going.
yeah, I think it's in that book. and they just stood there and stood there and stood there. They
Yeah,
built up
and-
towns and stuff around them. Okay, yeah, that's in that book.
Yeah, because they refused to step right or south or north. They just had
I
to
could
go east.
I could go get that book right now and read it to everybody.
Oh, cool.
Would that get us a copyright strike though?
That would be probably.
Not if you just read it.
Yeah. Well, if you
Not if you just say the words.
Yeah. So
Oh, well.
we got a copyright strike on Snata over something that TopDawg brought. TopDawg has to never bring videos to my channel again. But anyway, he played something that happened to be from somehow it got a copyright strike and the video got taken down. And I've applied for a retraction.
Yeah.
And the person that took it down, or the person who she runs some sort of a cryptic site, and Bree is all over that shit, right? So these two, I was thinking about having them on together and see what they had to say. But I think she's going to release. She's going to go along with the retraction, and she's going to allow me to use the video. So anyway. And we ended up patching things. I came at her an email pretty hot, and I managed to offend her a little bit. And we went back and forth for a while. So anyway. Oh my God! So Rebecca's gonna talk to. Oh no, Danny. When is that? Please. Oh my God. So she's gonna talk to a physicist about her, criticisms of the cosmos and the Big Bang and all that. Yeah, about the Big Bang Theory. I just don't give a rat's ass whether the Big Bang is, ends up being overturned or not. And for one thing, it isn't a Big Bang. It's an expansion from a very small thing to a bigger thing. So there is no coming out of nothing or anything like that involved. But I don't give a rat's ass because it has nothing to do with whether God exists at all. I don't know why these creationists are so crazy about it. So who's the physicist? Who is it? Oh, so he's not somebody we would have heard of. But Danny, if you got a link to that, we'll definitely promote the hell out of that.
Yeah, does he have a channel, or is he just like a post-grad or a professor?
It's going to be like a Smurf one.
Yes, that's right, Nerdy.
Oh, shit. Nerdy, you're always so spot on. Oh, my God.
Boy,
Danny.
She sounded uncharacteristically fanatical the other day on that debate between Grayson and Sal with Rebecca, and who was Sal's? Grayson's other partner. Was it
Leo?
Was it Leo? It was Leo. Okay, yeah. I didn't watch the thing. I just noticed it, and she had concluded her things, and she was loud and rah, 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 rah.
Oh, so you should have heard them. Sal and her did an after show, and they were like blowing trumpets of victory.
Yeah.
And they just.
Oh, they always blow trumpets of victory, no matter what.
Oh yeah, they will do that, and they will talk shit about their interlocutors behind their back.
Sure.
Oh, blitzphd on TikTok. Young fella. I hope he's prepared for what he's going to get.
Yeah. Yep. We got him here.
Well,
Danny,
TikTok's going to be gone soon.
Danny, if you like your friend, you need to prepare him for the likes of Rebecca.
So, isn't it TikTok that the government's currently talking about banning? Getting rid of?
Yeah, why would they do
Our
that?
government is going to ban TikTok because it's too related to China or something?
Maybe that's why. But they're talking about it today officially in session. So.
No
Well,
shit.
good. I look forward to seeing that, Danny.
Video details. Let me see here. Oh, shit. What didn't I put in there? There's some link that I didn't save. God damn it. And when I rebooted, I didn't get it. Okay. So, yeah. I'm following them. Okay. So anyway, so I draw these ribbons, and the top ribbon is that mental landscape, right? So this is the thing that we're trying to trap, is this mental landscape on top. And on the bottom, basically, we'll correlate, between these two things, basically, the mental and the physical landscape. So now the only way to attack this mental landscape, in my view, is to talk about very, very specific scenarios. Like you imagine a thought experiment, and then you go ahead and you run that thought experiment on yourself. Your friends run it, and you try to, while you're running that thought experiment, you try to remember what happened shortly after it. Like you open the door, you look at the tree, and you see something in the tree. So you run that thought experiment over and over again. And so all these different things happen when you do that. Like when you're opening the door, there's sensations in your body, like a T0 here, and you're feeling your movement, your willing movement. Light all of a sudden hits your visual system. You get a whole different visual panoply. Panoply, is that how you say that? Panoply? I don't know what word I'm looking for. Anyway, there's just a whole visual field that hits you, and then you start to focus on pieces of that visual field, and now you bring in something different called attention. And attention, you can actually map how that works in the brain through the thalamus, where you start to focus your attention down on one particular tree, on one branch on the tree, on one little weird black thing in the tree, and that is what you think is a crow. And then all of a sudden your linguistic system kicks in, and you feel the word crow form, and you believe it's a crow, but immediately later it starts running around the tree. So you've got more visual goings on. You got some confusion here for about maybe a fourth of a second, right? And then you say, oh no, that's a goddamn squirrel. And then over here you say, oh my God, it's a black squirrel. Haven't seen one of those. Gray squirrels are the common variety, right? So all of that, so you run that over again, and of course you're not going to see you're not going to go through this exact experience. I've never had it happen to me except for that one time. And I happened to be reading these books on consciousness, so I was prepared to record my experience when I opened the door, right? So I remembered this whole scenario, and I talk about it a lot, but it's called a scenario, basically, or a scene, right? You develop these scenes. And now another one that I really like is we put you in a big, huge 50-foot wide cement room, right? The walls are 50 foot thick. You can't hear a thing from the outside. You feel no air. You're in a room. It's completely black, totally dark. So nothing in your visual field at all. And in front of you, we place a stool, and you don't know it's there. And on that stool, we place an apple, a nice, bright, shiny apple. And behind the apple, we have a light that we can turn on. So we turn that apple on, basically, or turn that light on, and all of a sudden the apple hits your visual field, and you start to go through this process of identifying an apple. Well, then on that apple, there's a little shiny spot. And what you may not notice right away is that we're projecting a dancing chimpanzee onto that little shiny spot, that bright spot on the apple where the light happens to hit it. It makes a bright spot. And then later on, we ask you what you were conscious of. What did you see? And because of blind sight, a lot of people will not become conscious of the dancing chimpanzee in the little spot of light. Am I explaining the spot of light right? It's the bright, when you shine on a spherical object, there's a bright spot, and then, the light, you can see the light reflected in it. Well, so people will say they weren't conscious of it. Well, my claim, we can get to that claim later, but I make claims based on that whole experience. And you keep thinking about that thought experiment, you run it over and over again. You create this subjective timeline about, what we think happens to the person as they're turned on to this experience. And then we start talking about all the other things. Like, for one thing, when you're in a dark room and you close your eyes, you see lights on your eyelids. You see things. They're called phosphenes. Mm-hmm. And also, when you're sitting on a chair, you're not experiencing nothing. You're feeling your joints, proprioception. You're feeling all sorts of stuff. You're feeling information from your gut telling you how well your dinner is going, you know? And you're feeling information from the wellness of your body. You can tell if there's a virus attacking you. And there's all this other stuff that's blending into that consciousness. And all of these are artifacts up in the subjective experience. And at the same time, when we draw an artifact up here, we can connect it to something neurological down here. And my claim is that there is a one-to-one mapping, that there can be no change in this experience without a corresponding change in this experience, or in this physical timeline. So that's my ribbons and bows, basically. Ribbons and bows theory of how to start talking about these things. And when Danny says ought or belief, the first thing I do is I start to think about, okay, what is the landscape of what he's talking about? What is a belief, and what could it physically be in the brain? And then I start mapping the two together. So have I beaten that subject to death, or do you guys have any questions about how I do that? Or what I'm doing?
Makes sense to me.
Did you read Brian's side chat, Brian Stevens, about he asking if you were doing your own version of Bayesian analysis?
I don't think so.
Yeah, is this
I don't think I heard
Steve's
about
version of Bayesian event analysis?
Where did he say that? Let's see.
It's right here.
Oh, good. Is this Speed's version of Bayesian event? No. It's got nothing to do with that. So, no, this is a way of mapping out basically, like, okay, the reason it's a ribbon is because there's more than one thing going on in your mental landscape. Like, you could feel your toes or your feet on the ground, feel your butt on the chair at the same time you're looking at a red apple. So that's why it's wide, because there's mental artifacts all over here. And these things sort of
That's why my butt's wide.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, because that's why it's wide. This is the width of the ribbon, right? And then, of course, here for physical things, we got a number of physical things going on in the brain, and that's also wide. But there's like, okay, one would think that there's a one-to-one correspondence between what you're feeling mentally and what's happening physically. That's not true. It looks like this, basically. There's no one-to-one correspondence between time up here and time down here, because all of your conscious experience turns out to be a wide brush of this landscape. So like as you're moving, this brush keeps moving along this landscape, and it has very loose relationship to physical time. Physical events we can map out down to the microsecond, right? A nanosecond. But these events up here, they tend to basically get blurred into a 200 millisecond ribbon. So 200 milliseconds. That's just how the mind works. You blend things together. So as you're moving through time, you are not experiencing physical time nanosecond to nanosecond. You are experiencing a broad brush of mental events that are kind of like glommed together, right? Any question on that?
No, it makes sense to me. I mean,
I have another question. Am I talking too much? I'm talking too much. So
it's your channel. I mean, what
People
counts
always
as too
say-
much on my channel? On my channel, it's just me talking. So, I mean, people still stick around for it for some, I guess, because people like being, I don't know, whatever that experience is. But like, I wouldn't
Yeah.
want to sit around for an hour listening to me talk.
I have basically FOSA. It's a it's basically a psychological syndrome called FOSA, FOSA, fear of streaming alone.
Oh, I see.
I don't know how you do it, because I'm afraid to get on and just start talking.
We need
But I
to
mean,
start
yeah.
a GoFundMe or a Kickstarter, whatever. I guess GoFundMe for that to find a cure for speed.
Cure for FOSA. Yeah, you got to find a cure for FOSA.
here's what I'm getting at. It kind of doesn't matter if I'm impressing people or making a fool of myself, because if I'm impressing people, then that's why they're there. If I'm making a fool of myself, then that's why they're there. Either way, the crowd is entertained and everybody wins.
Well, everybody in the world, but you, knows that what you do is impressive, but because of imposter syndrome, you are never going to be able to grasp that knowledge fully, right? Because we all have.
I don't know. I have moments. Maybe I heard that we do. I mean, there are moments where I feel like I am in the zone, and man, I just think, yeah, I really brought my A game. But there are other times where I'm like, I just wasted everybody's hour, but that's okay because they could have left at any time, so I'm not guilty. So it just depends on the day, right? Like, it's whatever.
Yeah.
It just doesn't matter that much. It's an open bar. My channel, for example, is why it's an open bar. You come in and you have a drink, you chat with people, you see what's on. When you get bored, you just get up and leave, right? Everybody's happy.
And I wanted to let you know, James, just a little constructive criticism. Your peanuts that you set on the bar are getting a little stale. I think you need to replace them.
They are. I need to refresh my nuts.
Yeah. Tend to your nuts.
I just screwed up my saving of the size. So we've got different senses that react at different rates, like hearing, vision working at different speeds, refresh rates, so to speak. Yeah, there's definitely different rates that things are going to basically impinge on your mental landscape. And the thing is that as you become conscious, we have a great deal of confusion over attention and consciousness. And in neuroscience, they will insist on those being different things, right? Methodology. What's this actual point data result? Okay, so the utility of this methodology is to be able to frame a discussion about mental events. So what I want to do, like if you talk about belief, right? Like what is a belief? Well, you're going to lay out mental events here, like at T0. Somebody's going to say, do you believe in God? Right here, T0. So you hear that, and then you process this linguistic construct, right? And then all of a sudden here you start to elicit, you do a speech act where you say, yes, I believe in God, right? So what happens between here and here, right? So a belief is obviously something that's already in your brain. Okay, it's down here somewhere. It's dispositional. And when the person asks you, do you believe this? Something happens down here that allows you to pick a response that's yes or no. So what this does is it gives us a framework to start talking about what these events are mentally that we go through. I hear the sound, do you believe in God? I accumulate that somewhere in my brain like a buffer. Then I linguistically process it. Then I go out into some fucking store that I'm not even conscious of, and I knee-jerk start to spew out the sentence, yes, I do. So what I'm trying to do is become very detailed about those mental events. So is that clear, Brian? That this is the... And this is the methodology that I use for all philosophical problems. I start to think in terms of these mental events and how they physically map. So
it's just a flow chart of biomechanical events. So you can track them as well as you can track them.
So Jay Pasek, what amuses speed? What did Jay say? Okay. Should we open the room? What is the point of this presentation? Oh, fuck you. It amuses me. The point of this presentation is to criticize philosophers that start with belief, desire, words, right? Constructs, and try to make an ontological argument based on those things without going through the second part of the stream, which is my ribbons and bows here, right? So basically, I want to explain my methodology, how I use scientism to solve problems in morality or ethics, philosophy, epistemology, all of that. I always start with this framework. This is how I think, because I am a dyed-in-the-wool physicalist, right, and naturalist, and this is where I start off.
Mhm.
So, anyway,
Sure.
I haven't seen that debate yet, because I don't give a rat's ass whether the Big Bang happened or not. I don't care. I kind of hope it didn't.
I have this tolerance thing that goes from like low to practically non-existence for my patients with pseudoscientific disinformational bullshit that's put out by creationists. Even though I love, to hear Grayson and Leo talk about it and everything. So I will watch it, but it takes a lot of motivating on my part, because the bullshit those people can just pull out of their anuses.
Yeah, and Rebecca and Sel are just like, they're so passionate about this. It's almost like they think if the Big Bang didn't happen, it proves God. How the fuck does that prove God? I don't.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
Right. So
go ahead.
Let's be clear about this. If the universe were only 6,000 years old, and if science proved that the universe is only 6,000 years old, they would be taking an old world, old universe position and trying to debunk our 6-day naturalism.
Exactly.
Because it's not really about what's best supported or what's rational or what's true. It's about their grift. They're essential to their grift is undermining people's confidence in facts and rationality. And that's all part of gaslighting in order to get people to doubt their own ability to sort things out, to doubt all authorities except for the religious authority. So that they can sell you on the religious grift. It's like, oh no, I don't know who or what to trust anymore. Even my own ability to reason is so suspect. What shall I do now? And then they go, no worry, don't lean on your own understanding, lean on ours, because we have exposed the grift of science. And I guess it works on really simple-minded people who don't understand how science works, and that's what they're cashing in on. So. It's just whatever. The grift is the grift.
Yeah, Nitty made a pretty good point here. They need to show the universe to be plausibly young. In other words, they have to pick on old Earth creationism or Big Bang cosmology, because it's a defeater for a young Earth. So it's about their young Earth thing. I guess if they prove the Big Bang wrong, but Jesus Christ. Couldn't God have done it that way 6,000 years ago? I mean, wouldn't a Big Bang kind of have made sense? I mean, the thing is, I was asked this question. Okay, when God created the herds of elephants, right? If you're sitting there, you're sitting there in the savannah, there are no elephants. All of a sudden, God creates the elephants. Did he create them in like an infinitesimally small period of time? Or did he create them over a few seconds or, maybe an hour? Because if it was like infinitesimally small amount of time, as soon as that herd of elephants appeared, there would be a gigantic hurricane force wind emanating out of because it would have to displace the air. Unless maybe he created the elephants before he created the air. I don't know. Anyway, but, I mean, what the fuck? But I mean, what if God created the Earth with a Big Bang 6,000 years ago, and light went really fast or something? I don't know. Why the fuck does anybody believe in this fairy tale bullshit to begin with? What is wrong with people? What? Come on.
A comforting sense of identity. That's it. A comforting sense of identity.
Plus, you don't really have to work to get smart or to get informed about things. It's a lot of work to keep up with science, not only because it keeps changing, but because my interests in science keep changing too. I keep changing. That's kind of too bad. That's life. Sometimes life is hard, and the important things of life are hard. And with creationism, you just let some preacher tell you, what he thinks, or they have had people get PhDs just to become disinformation, distributors. But
Sure.
Yeah, it's just you don't have to work so hard to be a dyed-in-the-wool, run-of-the-mill creationist.
Yes,
Right.
the Wiener problem. That is the problem. Oh, what's the Wiener problem? Wiener philosophers, weenies, philosophers that just start spouting linguistic nonsense and expect to make some kind of a ontological claim based on it, right? It's not any different than any other religion. You just start spouting fucking nonsense and then pretend that you're explaining the fucking life, the universe, and everything. It just what the fuck.
Yeah.
Anyway. So what should we do? Should we open the room up or should we just call this? Not sure.
I mean, if somebody has something, if somebody wants to say something, I mean, we give them an opportunity.
I'll put the link out there and we'll just see what happens. If
I
we have any takers, do you want to cut it off in half an hour? Or I could go all day. I could go all night. I've really got nothing left.
God, yeah, that sounds so fucking depressing.
Really, what's there to do? There's just nothing to do. I can practice my horn later, I guess. But other than that, what the hell is there?
Scott has nothing to live for, no meaning in his life. Let the stream go on. Because this is really sad, Scott. I'm feeling sad. Feeling very sad.
I mean, Scott kind of is winning. Scott's really winning at the whole life thing because look, it's easy to become useful in our world, but it is a really trick to be able to outlive your usefulness. I mean, that's winning right there when you've outlived it.
Oh, what a spin! Wow. I'm standing up. God dang it. James Spinnerson. That's what you are. James Spinnerson.
James Spinnerson.
Let's see. I know you guys
we love you.
Plantinga, but for people like me who do not understand philosophy, it's hard for me to distinguish between Plantinga, who seems to be doing Wienerism, versus Steve McRae. Oh, I've heard Steve McRae sound like a wiener. I don't know. I'm not sure.
There's something going on Twitter right now regarding something that Steve McRae said, I guess just today.
Did he get canceled again?
Well, it's about gender versus sex, male, female chromosome or something. I just seen it popping up and people's reactions to him and stuff like that. So
let me check the twit. I will check the twit.
Oh, good. We have Bree working the. Bree, do you want to come in and give us an update, a summary of what's going on? Hit that link up there. I'll put the link up here. Huh?
I've decided I need to quit even talking about gender. I'm just going to end up getting myself in trouble and canceled if I keep trying to make sense of it. So don't need that.
Maya got back to me again, and I missed it.
Speed.
Anyway. So, how do you turn notifications on for messages? Can you do that?
For Twitter?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't know that I've ever been notified of a message from
Twitter. Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't get that many, so it doesn't matter. I think you actually do. So you just may not have seen it. Okay. Do I need to set myself a timer to remind you at certain times?
To look at Twitter?
Yeah, to get back to Maya, yeah.
Oh, okay. Hey Siri, set a timer for every 5 minutes.
5 minutes starting now.
Oh no. No, it did it. Oh no. Oh, I'm oh shit.
Hey Siri, make me a sandwich.
Yeah. Shit. It only responds to my voice. Now a timer's gonna go off every 5 minutes until until I find a way to remove that, because I'm not sure if you can just say remove all my timers for that, but I don't know if that works. Siri is a twisted fucking minefield. Let's see, what do we got? Oh, we're not going to talk about gender because they're going to get it wrong, but that you shouldn't talk about it if you're not well read on it, like anything. Yeah, that's the point.
I mean, the more I study, the less I understand it.
Yep. Yeah, I'm just saying, fuck it all. Let's just stop gender thinking, for God's sake. Pretty easy.
There are no genders.
I just stopped gender thinking or sex thinking or some fucking thing I'd stop doing. Basically, I just see every individual as an individual. And, hey, it's Jay. Let's put this guy in here. Oh, my God, you were black and white, now you're color. That's just like Mary's room. If you're
I just call and say, "Hey, Rebecca." That's it. I don't really even have. I'm just so sick of this raggedy bitch.
Raggedy bitch. I love that.
Why are we like debating the big? Look, y'all. She just debates all the most established science, and then they turn around and say they love science and want to be scientific. It's insulting.
It is.
It's really a problem too that there's so many people in our community that defend her. Like there's so many people in our community that fall for that smile and warm cookies bullshit. And then they get mad at us for criticizing her.
Right.
No, she's the epitome. They are the epitome of anti-science grifters. And they're like you said, they're always with the chest beating and oh my goodness. I really, it just infuriates me. But James spoke on it and was dead on. But yeah, I just wanted to hate. Just wanted to put some hate out there towards Rebecca Davis.
I was amused and pleased when I first saw Raggedy Bitch.
Oh, it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop. Oh yeah, it's that. I really do think she deserves our scorn, especially because she's like doubled down, right? This is not. You're not talking about your aunt or your grandmother who's actually never heard all the atheist arguments, who hasn't, heard the Bible deconstructed, who doesn't have a clue about science. Rebecca Davis knows she's wrong about everything. I genuinely believe that. I don't think she's a good faith actor. I do think it's all a grift. And I think there's a real problem in our community. I was thinking about this when James was talking about taking a step back. I was like, man, they're better at getting us to delete our channels than the other way around.
Yeah.
That is the problem. It's crazy, but there's this thing that happens in these spaces where these people are ridiculous, and what they stand for, what they're fighting for, is absurd. And then they do this weird thing where they demand this sort of civility and welcomeness from us.
Right.
When really, I think most of them are here to push back on our community. Like we're a community where like, oh look, we're recovering from religion, or we're just trying to build our secular identities, find some like-minded people. They seek out the spaces where we're doing that, come to our channels with one goal in mind: to interfere with the process. I was actually just watching, for members only thing, I was just watching a sermon that happens in my mom's church. It was all about the Great Commission. And I realized that's the central core of Christianity, right? Go and make disciples of nations. And they're very clear about it. This is how you engage with other people. This is how you convert people. This is how you engage with non-believers. It's very strategic. And then we treat them, when they come into our spaces, as though they've just stumbled into our neighborhood on accident. And I realized, no, they're literally following the marching orders they're getting from their pastors on Sunday mornings to go and spread the gospel. Right. And then they come into our spaces deliberately to interfere with our journeys. They demand that we treat them like they're guests, like they're so welcome, like, oh my goodness, we're so glad you're here, you're the guest of honor, please do come take over my stream and completely distract my chat from what I'm talking about. And then when we don't,
Sure.
they flip out at us and treat us like we're literally treating them in an inhumane fashion for calling them
Persecuting.
out. Like we're persecuting them. And then our community turns around and treats us like we're persecuting them.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all, we got to stop that.
Yeah.
We just got to stop that. We got to recognize the enemy and treat them as such. Go ahead.
Rebecca was a friend, and then she started, she'd come on and talk, spar about evolution, and then she kept shutting me down with these silly things like, oh, that's just a story, and Mike, you're not explaining it. And then she'd ask me to explain something, and then when I tried to explain it, she would shut me down, right? So I told her she was gaslighting me, right? She's basically, and then she she finally said, I can't talk to you about this at all because you are such an evolutionist that you're being brainwashed by evolution. And that too is gaslighting, basically.
100%.
Telling me that I am brainwashed, right? Like she fucking knows why I believe in evolution. And I told her I'm very angry with you, and I refuse to elaborate any more than that. If she can't fucking figure it out, then I think friendship is beyond us. I think friendship has got to, because my friends will listen to me when I talk.
Woo!
They hear me, right?
Mike is really going there. Mike, I got to be honest with you. Part of my passionate dislike of this person is that I fell for it too. Early on, I fell for a hook, line, and sinker, man. Matter of fact, I went so far, and I hope there's not a lot of people around that remember this, but I actually would call Rebecca like part of our community. I would say like she's our theist. I don't even know what that means, but she's our theist. She's one of us, man. Because she's always on our channel. She always has us on her channel. I really bought into it, Mike. So that I get it. I really did buy into it. I thought she was a friend as well. I thought that the way she presented herself really was the step forward that we needed. Like, let's get together, let's listen to each other, let's share spaces together. And then I realized it was all an act. The problem is it didn't take me that long. It seems like a lot of people have been exposed to even more Rebecca Davis than I have, and they still don't get it yet. Whereas I realized it fairly early on. Like, you got to remember, for a lot of us, she was just popping up on stream. She wasn't even really pushing her channel a lot. And so it kind of took you a minute to realize, oh, she actually has a channel. And then it takes you a minute to realize, oh, she has another channel called Examining Evolution that's straight up anti-evolution. Now put those things together. Yep. She's not letting you know really that she has a channel. And when she has a channel, she lies about what her channel is. Oh, I'm mostly here I'm not an apologist, I'm an evangelist. Well, then why is your channel all apologetics? And then she just plays it like, oh, if I could just let go of this innocent young earth creationism, I could be one of the cool kids. But wait, you have a whole second channel dedicated to being anti-evolution. Like the Rebecca Davis that she presented to me was a lie. It was a lie, and it was a fraud. The other thing you made me think of, Mike, is she knows she has a master's in apologetics, but she knows she ain't got no damn master's in biology. So for her to turn around and say, you're brainwashed, you're too indoctrinated, she's got to know what she's doing, because she knows she's not qualified. She knows she's not qualified.
Yeah, and I've been pretty open about some emotional trauma in my life in the past 2 to 5 years, and that trauma, basically, Rebecca was extremely emotionally supportive of me, and I would hate to think that was a way to get to me, basically.
It was love bombing.
Yeah.
She was trying to buy you off emotionally, like atheist of the month, but emotionally. James talks about this. James, who thinks for some reason he don't add nothing, even though he be calling everybody out. James, you are wrong about yourself, James. That's your biggest problem, James.
Yeah.
Maybe so.
You're not enough of a James Apperson fan. You need to get like the rest of us.
I love the stuff that you weren't a real Christian, or you're not really an atheist, or you just want to sin, and all that fucking gaslighting bullshit. Like that's one of their weapons. Like 100%. You really believe in God, you just don't know it yet. That sort of thing. Like
which you kind of want to ask, which one is it? Is it that I was never Christian and I don't really know God, or that secretly in my heart of hearts I definitely know I am a Christian and just won't admit it to you? Those seem to be a little incompatible.
Yep. Well, the most egregious experience I had with this when I was talking to Nephilim Free, he was describing a spiritual experience that he had within the framework of religion, right? And I know that he actually had a major experience in his life because of the way he was describing it, because it was homologous to the experience that I had. But then when I told him that the experience I had nothing to do with God or religion, I was an atheist before, during, and after that experience, right? So I had this like religious or spiritual experience, and it sounded the same as what Nephilim was talking about. And then he told me, well, no, you just didn't have a real experience. And Kafai did the same thing to me on psychedelics. No, you just didn't go far enough. You didn't go far enough to see real God. You know, whatever you saw, that sort of shit. That is gaslighting.
Yeah, Kafai was the first person the only person I ever personally banned on my channel was Kafai. And for that kind of stuff.
Oh no shit! You banned him, man.
He's and I didn't want to. Like I kept. Yeah, he can be cool, but I told him, I'm like, when somebody that has their own channel, and you're at their channel, and they tell you, okay, it's enough of that. Whatever thing you're doing, they say that's enough. No more on my channel, please. And you keep going, then you're just asking to get banned, right? Yeah. And that's how that happened. He got lots of warnings.
Kafai is passionate, and he is just the nicest person. I mean, he's a really good person. I can guarantee that. And he's just passionate about what he believes. And he's one of these one of these people that basically took psychedelics, got this feeling of not existing, of yourself dissolving, and he went to a God solution for explaining that to him. And once you do that, it's really hard to fucking melt that. You need more. You need to do more psychedelics, I think, to melt that fucking idea down. It's like, okay.
Right, he melted into a narrative, and now he needs to melt back out of it.
Yeah, you need to melt back out of it because, it just, you don't meet God when you do psychedelics, for fuck's sake, nor do you meet elves.
And I really didn't care, but more power to him. He's not hurting anybody. If there's no authoritarianism or bigotry to it, but it was distracting in the chat, and it was triggering for some of the people in my chat. God this and God that. Do drugs, you'll find God. And I'm like, man, you need a more structured argument than that. Either way, like just.
Yeah, and I told Kafai about this experience I had when I was 15 years old, and that experience, that single 3-day experience, changed my entire life. Just changed the course of my life totally, and it's still changing my life to this day. And that was what the fuck, 60 years ago, almost. And he basically said, well, if you'd done mushrooms instead of just having this experience without them, that you would have saw God. You would have seen the real truth, right? And it's like, fuck you. You're talking about an experience that I've talked about all of my life. This one thing that happened to me on a Christmas Eve when I was 15 years old, about to turn 16. I mean, it was a really significant thing in my life. And people just say, oh, that wasn't a real experience. Really? What's not a real experience? I don't know.
Yeah, it's really dismissive.
Right.
And I think part of it is they want to maintain that their way of having revelations is the only real way. I actually got to pop out and get some work done, but I'm going back to the crowd to listen. Mike, James, Scott, I fucking love all three of you guys. Thank you so much for having me on.
I love
go ahead,
you
James.
Thank you.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Mike. James, I'm looking forward to what you have to say.
See you later, Double Dr. J.
All right, see you in a bit, gang.
Double Dr. J. I like.
So yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I'm ready to shoot her in the head. Let's see. Maybe I'm weird, but yeah, exactly. It makes you like when you realize, like on psychedelics, you imbibe reality at a very high dose, right? You can suddenly start to fucking see all kinds of shit that's happening in your mind and in reality, and it makes me less religious. And I just happen to be, a staunch atheist prior to having that experience. And I had that experience reading a book on Buddhism. I could have gone the other way. I still call myself a Buddhist because of that experience, but I don't buy into karma or any of the bullshit Hollywood Buddhism. It's all physicalism and naturalism. So I didn't fucking drink the Kool-Aid is what happened. I didn't drink the fucking Kool-Aid. I had it right in front of me. I didn't drink it. Anyway.
Rare.
Anyway,
Yeah,
guys.
I don't care. I don't care what other people do. Just don't try to make us drink the Kool-Aid.
Right. Yeah, and the thing is, the thing I wanted to tell the reason that I talk about that experience to Christians is I want them to know that you can have these wonderful, rich life experiences like spirituality without believing in this fucking garbage. You don't have to believe in a doctrine. In fact, in Buddhism, there's a kind of a whole philosophy about getting rid of all your beliefs, not acquiring new ones like karma and all that shit. Not attaching yourself to these this fucking ideology, this doctrine.
Right.
You just a doctrine in Buddhism, they describe a doctrine or a belief as a garment or a vessel or a pathway, right? It's a garment that you don and then you take it off when you don't need it anymore. You shed it. So you keep shedding your belief over and over again until you get down to the just chopping wood. Apparently is the goal of Buddhism. Just chop wood. I think, yeah. Oh, fuck. I just realized what happened. My whole life just became crystal clear to me. My father, we lived on a farm. We had a wooden coal furnace. And my father would go to the mines basically when they would like clean a hillside. They'd knock all the trees down. And he'd haul home like fucking cord after cord of wood. And then he would make me put on a parka and mittens and go out there, and he would saw the wood and I would throw it into a pile. I'd grab the blocks and throw it into a pile until I was so fucking frozen and sick and tired. And every weekend, and my father put up enough wood to last us for 3 lifetimes in that yard, right? And basically, my father's behind this fucking Buddhism thing, go chop wood. It's his idea. He was the one. He wanted me to believe that I should just go chop wood. I just realized how duped I've been by my father all my life. Oh my God.
Man.
Yeah, major psychological.
We just had that breakthrough. Need to mark the time.
Right.
2nd of March. That's amazing. It's an amazing insight. You got any insights? Did you have any breakthroughs during this live stream, James?
I like turtles. I didn't. But it takes me a while to chew on things and to digest them. So I might have an aftershock, as it were.
Well, I had 0 breakthroughs. I did have a good little pep talk from you. That was really interesting, Mr. Spinner.
Oh yeah.
But still, I'm going to count that kind of as a breakthrough because it would just made me laugh so much.
That's good. I'm glad you didn't take it personal because I'm just fucking with you.
Oh yeah, I know. I would trade a good hearty belly laugh for a breakthrough just about any day. You always need a belly laugh. You may not always need a breakthrough.
That's true. You should put that in a fortune cookie somewhere.
Yep. Okay, so let's see. Pipeline audio, interesting. Okay, that's an interesting connection. Anyway, I think we should shoot her in the head, guys. I think we've done enough damage.
Sounds good, guys.
I hope I made my ribbons and bows ideas clear. I'm going to be very sad. Anyway, I'm going to be so sad. Okay, we're going to end the stream. Is that okay?
All right. Yep, sounds good.
James, James and Scott, you do not leave the room as soon as we end the stream.
Okay.
That's something.
I
Yeah,
will
I'll-
abide.
Okay.
The Duke
Anyway,
abides.
thank you all for appearing out there in chat. We had some new people today, so I think. Anyway, goodbye, cruel world. We're going to our corners.